without any delay, I'm going to hand over to you, Gail, and this part of the meeting is being filmed so that we can share it afterwards. So over to you.
Thanks, Helen. It's lovely, and hello everyone. Lovely to see lots of familiar faces here. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me in and along. So just in case I've not darkened your doorstep before now, I am Gail Robertson, Screen Education Officer at Screen Scotland. We're the national agency for all things screen, production, exhibition, skills, and also education. We're just a little team of two of us. And before I was doing this role, I was a teacher. So I try to make sure that anything we're doing education-wise is very much led from on the ground. I want to make sure that anyone who's still heavily involved in teaching and education has a say wherever we can in what we do. So we're actually delivering meaningful things. So we do lots of stuff. We do sort of lots of funding of projects to make sure screen education is happening. We're currently developing a film and screen curriculum, very early stages, but that's something we're working on just now. But in amongst all my other stuff that I do, I am the project manager of a suite of websites. There's 3 of them. There's Moving Image Education, Scotland on Screen, and Screening Shorts. That's the one I really wanted to talk to you about today. That was developed in about 2008, and before I came at the role in 2020, it's just been a little bit neglected and a little bit unloved. I know some of you were already using it. We're really familiar with it. I'm sort of coming to the end of a massive period of redevelopment on it, and part of me was tempted to hold off before speaking to you about it until it all looked all shiny and new and wonderful. But we thought, let's get you in early doors and then you'll get to enjoy the transition with the rest of us. So I've been working on this website for the last couple of years, trying to sort of spruce it up a bit, bring it a bit up to date to make sure things are relevant, and we've taken out references to things like Windows Movie Maker and old links. But there's also been part of that is making sure that it's tying into the curriculum for excellence wherever possible, because not only is there quite a dearth of film and screen education resources out there, because lots of media ones, but that's obviously tailored more to the sort of the media curriculum needs, but not just for teachers who are looking to even dip their toe into film and screen education. So there's a lot of what is out there tends to be tailored more to the English system, and that can be frustrating because it does lots of chatting about Key Stage 3 or GCSE, and then necessitates sort of re-editing of the materials or faffing about, or maybe just doesn't suit at all. So we're really pleased that this is probably, I can't speak for definite, there might be something else creeping around out there, but as far as I know, this is the only website that's expressly designed for the Scottish curriculum. So Julie, if you wouldn't mind popping on the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about it and what we've got on there. So the first big change was updating our screen, our short film library. We've now got we've got just under 100 right now, and we've just finished a little bit of film licensing work, and so we will have over 100 in the next month or so. We've got some lovely new ones coming on. It's a bit of a list situation just now, which is not ideal. We do have filters on there, so films can be chosen by curriculum area, by theme, by age group, by language that's spoken. So we've got these nice filters on there as well, but we're hoping to bring in a nice sort of tile format so you can get a little image of the film beforehand. Here are some of the ones that we've got on there that are just sort of, I just sort of chose a wee random selection, lots of different age groups. We've got things like mobile, which I love, and the present, which are really very suited to primary schools, and we've got quite a few more primary ones coming in because there's a wee lack of those on there just now. And then things that kind of bridge the gap, like Birthday Boy and I Am Tom Moody, which could sort of sit in the middle, and then stuff like Two Cars One Night, which is, I'm so chuffed about this, it's Taika Waititi's one of his first films. He was still making short films, so just it's really exciting to have such a big name director on there. So that's just a wee handful of the ones that we've got some lovely stuff heading our way, and we try to make sure that they're covering themes that are relevant to whatever teachers might want their pupils to learn. So we've got obviously with the younger ones, things that cover stuff like Bunny You Girl covers the issues of bullying. For example, I've got two of the new ones heading our way. There's 2025, The Long Hot Winter, which is all about climate change. It's a mockumentary and it's actually frighteningly close to what we might be looking at. It's not as off the wall as you might think. And Soft, which is sort of deals with this idea of masculinity, about a boy and his father who kind of get embroiled in a bit of a fight with a sort of gang, a street gang, and how they sort of go about handling it. So we try to make sure that we're covering as many bases as we can. So that's a wee selection of our short films that we've got in there. Do I advise you to check them out? Next slide, please. So one of the other things we developed a lot was our classroom resources, things that were ready to use. We just previously had a handful of worksheets that tied in with some of the activities that were existing on the website. And there's a lot of this stemmed from when I came on and it was lockdown and I was thinking we didn't have a lot of project work, unsurprisingly, going on. So I was thinking, what can I do to support teachers who are having to deal with remote learning? And so we started pulling together some full units on some of the films so that they could send the PowerPoint to the pupils, get them to watch the film and they could kind of work their way through it. And that proved really successful. So we've kept building on those. We're going to keep building on those. There's not a huge amount at the moment that I actually think is all of them that we've got just now, but that's deliberate because when we get finished with our final bits of redevelopment work, I'm going to do a bit of consultation work on the website and find out who's using it, how they're using it, what they like, what they don't like. And what I want to do is wait and see how these units are received wholesale before we start developing more so that we're not sort of wasting our time doing something that isn't practical. So we've got a wee range there. We've got just a bog standard sort of first, second and fourth level units in the films, just a bunch of film literacy activities, trying to tie them into the E's and O's, very much sort of tailored towards the sort of the English curriculum really, but Dangle's got a lot of suggested activities in particular for other curriculum areas. The three of them are quite different in how they're laid out in the kind of content, and that's again quite deliberate so we can see what people like the best, really. We've also got one there for health and well-being and for Spanish, just to sort of try branching out into other subject areas. The last four, the national 3, 4 and 5 ones, that's something we've already had feedback on and we know that they have been really popular with teachers. This was based on my experience working in our learning base at my last school, and we had lots of little single-use units that got you through the entirety of your literacy and English outcomes for those levels, for those pupils that couldn't make it into the classroom for whatever reason. So I've built these ones around that approach and around those 4 films that are there. And the idea is you've got your reading, writing, talking and listening elements. Listening is all built around the film. We found a sort of an associated article for the reading part. The writing is based around doing a film review, and listening is sort of a general discussion task, again related to the issues within the film. And if you get through those, if you complete all the work in those, then you have achieved your Nat 3, Nat 5. So we know we've already had some feedback on those sort of started. We had the 3 and then we've added in Monkey Love Experiments, which if you're going to make a start on watching a short film, it's my favourite, but you will cry. It's just a gorgeous piece of work. So that's what we've got. We're going to definitely be building up some more of those in time. Next slide, please. Okay, so some other things, that we've got. This is obviously filmmaking is a big part of screen education, and yes, people want to do it and they want the guidance. We know that confidence isn't always there with teachers because it's not something that we're trained to do. And so you have to, unless you're a tech whiz kid, you're really confident and you make your own films or you're doing it all the time, there is still quite a lot of fear, I guess, around it. We are not, because it's just me that really sort of runs the website, and there's just 2 of us in the team. We don't always have the capacity to make sort of video resources on these. This is something we would like to do, but video resources are better when it comes to teaching filmmaking because it's so visual. You can't easily teach people how to, set up their camera or edit within a PowerPoint. It doesn't really suit. So that's something we do need to develop more of, and we're sort of working on that. But these are other kind of creative activities. The first one's just a bunch of film literacy activities. This was very much tailored towards lockdown. It was actually also for parents. You could just sort of say to schools, if you've got any parents who are looking for things for their kids to do when they've finished their schoolwork and there's still a bit of the day left. So there's about muted myself, whoops. There's about 50 different suggested activities on there. Just different things from making, to playing, to writing, to reading, researching, whatever. So that's quite a nice place to just get a bunch of ideas. The Filmmaking Resources, that's just a list of sort of recommended equipment and apps and websites that might be useful if you're doing filmmaking with your class. I would always say, if anyone's sort of interested, our advice is always just iMovie and your iPad. That's all you need, or your phone. That's absolutely the best you need. You don't need all the different apps. There's a lot out there and they'll all sell themselves to you. And they're great. A lot of them are fantastic, but there are a lot of problems, obviously, with schools not being able to download these, or they can't afford them. So definitely keeping it simple, but that's a good place to start if you're looking for anything to help you with your filmmaking. The editing using iMovie, that was actually a teacher, Fraser Johnson at St Mungo's Academy, who made that and very kindly allowed us to use it and just make it look a bit shiny. But that's fantastic for guiding you through that editing process in iMovie. If it's not something you're familiar with, that's a really great resource, just a step-by-step, what everything means, how you go about it. Good. And last one, there's making a film with a class. That's one sort of really leading from my experience of making films with a class and how to just take through the process. There's nothing in there, like I say, really about using camera, but there's stuff in there about how to effectively organise your groups, the pre-production stage, all the planning, some advice on storyboarding, and times, just really practical on the ground advice. Julie, next slide, please. And these ones are kind of a bit of a random pair. That's just camera work. That's just an introduction. So there's so many camera angles and movements and shots out there. That breaks them all down. I like to think it's pretty inclusive. That's not the phrase I'm wanting to use, but it's got them all in there. And you could sort of take that and pick and choose the ones. There's a lot, they don't necessarily need to know every single solitary use of camera that's out there, but that's a guide. It's got all the pictures. So you could just put it up in front of the class. Here's your long shot, here's your extreme long shot, here's your Dutch angle, all things like that. And the film glossary, we do have a film glossary contained within the website. And it's a click, so if you're looking for a specific term, if you're looking, what does ambient sound mean, you click on A and it'll take you down to that section, and it's got a little definition. This is basically the PowerPoint version of that, little tables. I was kind of envisaging that as something useful, like you could give it to pupils and they would have a sort of handy guide, or you could print it out, stuff like that. But that's the glossary. Next slide, please. Right, these are our little writing about film series, these three, and obviously tailored a bit more towards English and literacy. And yeah, they're just sort of leading you through, if you're from BGE up to national qualification. Film reviews, just some templates, some guides if you're wanting to get them to write film reviews, particularly up to the more senior level. If you're perhaps that was appropriate for your class to use as a folio piece, then it's sort of teaching this is how you could make it suit a sort of folio or report for the folio. The critical essays, that's self-explanatory, just taking you through how you would get them to write a critical essay. Some guides using Peel is the one I was using most recently. I know there's all different ones, like PCQE and Sexy and all these kind of ones. So whatever one you're using, but they're all quite similar. So you can pick and choose what's in there, but it's got some examples of paragraphs. And again, running from BGE 1 all the way up to NQ. And sort of different colour-coded guides. And the last one's the word bank. What I found when I was teaching film was kids had such instinctive understanding of what they were seeing on the screen, but they struggled to find the words to describe what they were seeing. So this is a way to counteract that. So it's just a bunch of word banks all tied into different areas like design. So that's specifically words that will help describe costume, set, or location. So one's on sound, there's ones on camera work, just to help them. And I'm not going to fall into the trap that I usually fall into, which is try and give examples of words. But there's lots of different kind of good vocabulary builder, of course, as well. Next one, please. Right, so this is going to be another series once I finish it. There's only 3 out of the 8 I hope to have so far. I developed these. These are just ideas on how to use film and how they tie into the E's and O's for each individual curriculum area. Because obviously we want screen to be its own subject, but we also want to encourage it to be part and parcel of other subjects. So as you can see, we've got literacy, social studies. I'm very distracted by Angela's comment. This came up. Thank you. Not as clever as I sound, I promise you. So these are for literacy, social studies and modern languages. The reason we've only got these 3 right now is these are the 3 subject area groups that I've had extensive conversations with so far. I have refused to make these. I don't teach maths. I've never taught maths. Or a little bit dyscalculia. I'm not going to sit and make a resource on how to bring film and screen it into maths because I don't know. So these things all rise on the back of discussions with these groups. So hopefully we'll get some more of those in time as I get those discussions going forward. But essentially they just go through, I've just screenshot all the pages of the E's and O's from early years up to BGE4 and put at the side a bunch of suggested activities. Here's some things that you could do in class that would help you meet those. That's nice and simple, but again, a good one if you're sort of just getting started or you're just looking for a bit of inspiration. This little random one in the top right is a sort of, I've had to try it developing a 4th level kind of checklist. So if you made a film, you've actually got something that you can kind of grade if it doesn't seem to fit naturally into some of the literacy outcomes. Again, particularly this is more sort of English-based because it's my background. So it's just giving you something you could tick off. It doesn't explicitly tie into the curriculum, but yeah, it's a wee tester to see how people respond to it if they like it. And again, it's based on a version I used in my last school. So it's there if it's something you want to have a look at and have a wee try. It would actually be great if anyone wanted to try that out anywhere. If we could encourage folk to have a try at that because I would like to know if it's doing its job. That's the one thing I'm very uncertain about. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just our new stuff. This is all about bringing ScreenEd into the school library, running a CLPL session on this next week with a school librarian. And this is just, I know that school libraries are brilliant at bringing film and screen into the library, and it's just some ideas how to do it. So the screen shelves, I'm not sure about that name. So screen shelves is based around a reading a library reading scheme I used to use and I've used really successfully for years and years and years. And we're bringing film into it as well. So it's almost identical. You can either read a book or you can watch a short film in the library and you've got similar tasks and you build up stars and you try and get as many stars as you can. That's the upshot of it. So it's things like different levels of difficulty from designing a new film poster or a book cover to maybe doing a little theme study, something like that. So that's brand new. That's only just gone up in the last month or so. And we're looking forward to seeing how that goes. But we like that idea of giving them opportunity. We like the idea of people sitting and being able to watch a film. I've watched far too many pupils in my time pick a book off the shelf, open it somewhere in the middle and stare at it for 50 minutes because they'd rather do that than attempt to read because reading's too hard for them and they don't, especially at secondary, they don't want to be seen as not being able to be reading. So we're hoping that gives it a bit of another option so that library time is I suppose less painful for those pupils who really do struggle with their reading. And then there's the book trailers one, which is just helping to develop book trailers, which we know loads of libraries do. So it's just a little really brief guide to that. Next slide, please, Julie. That's it. So, and then just a wee chat about the rest of stuff that's on there. So that's all the kind of resources that are on there. We've also got the screen education section. That's full of information that'll help you with your first steps. So it's introducing you to our 3 C's approach, critical, cultural and creative, which is also all of the short films in our library have a little section underneath the film that comes under these 3 C's and again suggested activities made by teachers for each of those individual films. So they're very bespoke, they're not generalised ones. It also helps to outline concepts like screen narrative, which is really important to understand to get your first steps into film and how a screen narrative is different from another one. And things like camera work, editing, continuity system. There's also lots of guides as to where it fits into the Scottish curriculum. Again, some advice about the different E's and O's. So that does have all the subject areas in it at the moment. There's video tutorials, which are very old, and I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna update those, or if we're gonna make new ones. They've still got Scottish Film Education logo on it, which is about 2 different iterations of Screen Scotland ago, so they're old. And there's some learning and teaching activities, loads of those. There's the glossary, there's useful links to more websites. If we have time, I might do a wee guided tour through the website, but I'll stop for now. That's everything I wanted to say just now, and I'll see if anyone's got any questions in the meantime, and if not, I can do a really quick tour through the website if we have time.
Gail, thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is infectious. You might not have been able to follow the chat bar, but there's a lot of love for the resource, and people are tuning into it. We shared the link while you were talking. There's one really specific question that's from Annie Rankin, just about the N345 resources. Can we ask if these have been verified? People are always looking for other options for attaining those literacy assessments in particular. So I don't know if you want to pick that one up.
No, that's something to pick up. It's because of this sort of screen and film curriculum that we're developing, there's a little bit of flux going on, and it's quite all-consuming. So anything that it could, I suppose in an ideal world, we're going to end up doing ourselves out of a job, because this screen education is going to be happening everywhere naturally, and we're not going to be needed anymore. Horrible thought. And so partly because of that, we've been a bit cautious about sort of cementing a lot of the stuff we've got in Screen and Shorts. And also, like I say, a lot of it was just me making stuff and putting it up there and seeing, let's throw lots of throwing things at the wall and seeing if it sticks. I think it would be something that would be the next stage for those. Now that I've gotten that response from teachers and I know that they're liking them, it is the next stage is to take them to SQA, who've get them verified. But they've always been very supportive and seem to like a lot of what we do. So hopefully they'll be happy with what we've got. But yes, they also probably need marking schemes. It's just kind of left everyone in the lurch, because so many of it, as just to make excuses for myself, so much at these levels is you get a couple of suggestions and then any other acceptable answer. And with film, there's so much that could be an acceptable answer. Yeah. That's believe that if you like. That's marking schemes, but that might be something I'll need to develop.
That's really helpful, and I suppose that's an area to explore. But even I suppose as models for developing assessment in that way around about that stimulus, that's a really handy suggestion. Your resource is so comprehensive, and you think of everything. I always think that when you speak, you just think of everything. So we're so grateful for you coming along. I think we're about to wrap up, but I have shared the link to the site in the chat. So I think people probably have been browsing as we go along, and we know that people can contact you, Gail, directly if there are any further questions or if they want to chat more. And I know people in this network have been chatting with you already and hooked up with you to do various pieces of work. So thanks so much. We're about to close. Thanks, Gail.
I'm just going to put my emails in the chat so anyone needs it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for bringing me along.
Thank you.